All right. Hi, class. I'm Mrs. Faruqi. Settle in. You've got probably a 2-hour video ahead of you. We'll see. I got to note what time it is so I remember to stop. Sometimes I get carried away. All right. So you are in Calc 2, Math 210. I'm going to go over the syllabus with you now. It's very, very strange for me to go over the first day syllabus online. I normally would do this with students, so I thought about doing this on Wednesday and then having asynchronous work for you after that. However, I thought it would be a better use of our time for me to go over the syllabus, and then you could come up with questions that you have in the meantime if you do have questions. And if you'd like to email me your questions, that's fine. What I'll likely do is I'll start like a little Word doc of whatever questions I received, and I'll just copy paste them. And then even though I'll answer you individually, I'll probably just make sure I address those questions again on Wednesday in case it was something that people hadn't thought of, or maybe someone else had that question too, but maybe didn't want to send the email. And that's another thing I wanted to mention. Don't ever be scared to send an email. Don't ever say like, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother her. I'm your teacher. You should be emailing me if you have questions. Okay, so I do want to get started on your syllabus. If you do have questions as I go through this process, the nice thing is since it's being recorded for you, you can pause it and write down your question. By the way, this syllabus is also available on our D2L page. I think I'm probably going to get a little bit into our D2L page at some point today. But it's under the content tab. And then under content, it's under course info. So you can find it there. It's in the form of a PDF, and I'm just showing you the PDF that I put up there. It's got some links in it that you can click on. I keep thinking I should change these to HTML, but the nice thing about PDF is it's much easier, I think, to print and have it look nice, and you'll have a copy of it. Yeah, okay. So I'm sharing with you my syllabus. I'm gonna kind of go through this with my cursor here. There we go. Okay, so we are in Math 210. You are in section 820 or M20. If you're a dual credit high school student, you're in M20. I think I only have 2 of you this semester. But sorry, I just cannot see this, so I want to make sure that I can see what I'm sharing. Okay. Wonderful. If you're going to transfer this class, you might need these IAI major codes. You may not need them. It kind of all depends on where you're going and what you're transferring into, but the codes are on here in case you do. I am Carrie Faruqi. It's a Q, not a G, just so you know. You can technically copy paste my email, but just I get Faruqi all the time. It's Faruqi with a Q. I was not born a Faruqi. I married into the Faruqi family, which is how I became one. I have on here my instructor email listed as my student email. That's not a typo. I actually prefer to have you guys send me emails there. If you've emailed me previously, you might have sent emails to my kfaruqi@elgin.edu account. It's a lot easier for me to track things if they're all in one place. And I found in previous semesters that if everything comes into my Gmail, I see it more easily, and it's just easier to keep the correspondence going. So please send any emails to my instructor Gmail account, which says student, but it's technically my email account. Please include your full name in your correspondence. Sometimes your return address will show up as like asmith5723@student.elgin.edu, and your name won't be in there. You might want to check that. But if it does, and then you send me an email being like, hi, sometimes people don't even greet me. Just say, hi, Mrs. Faruqi, or something like that. Just wondering, did the date for our next test change, blah, blah, blah. And then if you say nothing, then I won't know who you are, and your return name won't even be in the from field. So please make sure you say, like, thanks, Ann Smith or whatever your name is, so that I know who you are and I know who I'm talking to. The good news is that I think at least half of this class from last spring or last summer, I had you guys in Calc 1. So that's one of my favorite things about teaching Calc 2 is I get a lot of the same students from Calc 1. I get to see everybody again. It's kind of fun. Okay, I have my voicemail on here. Please don't leave me a voicemail. Please don't. I have to put the voicemail on here because it's a required part of our syllabus. It's not something I check very often. It's probably not even something you would think to even leave me a voicemail. Just email me. I see the emails all the time. I'm very quick with emails. I always try to respond within 24 hours, usually sooner. Kind of depends on the complexity of your question. Okay, so August 23rd is hopefully when you're watching this video. Our class ends December 15th. So it's going to be here before you know it. It won't feel like it when you're at midterm, but trust me, it'll be here before you know it. We are meeting synchronously on Wednesdays from 6 to 8:20. Due to a scheduling conflict, I was going to meet with you synchronously Monday and Wednesday, but that did not happen. So I'm only seeing you synchronously on Wednesdays, which means that you will have the same amount of time asynchronous each week. This video right here is part of your week 1 asynchronous work. So my goal is to make sure that you watch your asynchronous videos by Monday of each week. Now that's a little bit different this week because normally I'll be releasing videos to you like Friday of the week prior, and then you would have until technically Wednesday, but I would hope that you would watch it by Monday. But that's kind of the way this is going to go. So that being said, like my plan for today is to go over the syllabus, kind of give you some course information, show you around Achieve as much as I possibly can right now. I'm still trying to figure out some things, but I do have some assignments set up for you in there already. I've requested your access codes. We'll get to that later. I also wanted to, that was one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to go over a little bit of an integration review with you. And then if there's any time after that, I wanted to just kind of start 6.1, which is about finding the area between curves in the applications of integration chapter. So that was my plan for tonight. Now, Wednesday, my goal is that you will have already seen this video so that by Wednesday, you'll be ready to go and we can pick up on Wednesday where I left off tonight. So if I start 6.1 tonight, then my goal is that on Wednesday, I'm going to pick up wherever I left off in 6.1, finish off 6.1, and then hopefully start 6.2. Again, kind of just seeing where things end up. So that's the way that I see this going. Now on Wednesday night, after your asynchronous lecture, I'm going to come back down here to the Faruqi dining room and I'm going to create another asynchronous lecture for you that picks up where we left off Wednesday night. And then I'll release that video to you probably Thursday or Friday. And then you would have the whole day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to watch that video. But I would hope that you would watch it at least at the very latest Monday, because you're going to have some homework you need to start up and you're going to have new material coming back at you that Wednesday. So do you see how this is going? So if you wait until Wednesday to watch the asynchronous video that I'll be releasing probably this week, Thursday or Friday, then you're going to have some problems because you're going to fall really far behind. So hopefully we'll sort of get into this rhythm very quickly. But I'm going to remind you of this on Wednesday, what the plan is, what I'm expecting to do, where I'm going to pick up, so on and so forth. And I'll make sure I email you when that video becomes available. But I'm also going to be placing a YouTube links folder in the content tab of our D2L class so that you'll be able to check on your own if there are any asynchronous videos that have been posted for that week. There will just be one each week, and you'll always be checking probably like Thursday or Friday. The only reason you would have to check would be sometimes I don't send an email if the video isn't done processing. Sometimes YouTube takes a while to process the video. And if it's still processing, I don't send an email because it maybe even it's downloading. So I recorded the lecture, it's downloading, it's like 3 a.m. and I don't feel like sitting there and sending out an email, and I'm planning to do it the next day. You can always check. Maybe you're up at 4 a.m. and you're ready to start a new calc lesson. So you might want to just check and see if your video is there in case I haven't sent the email. But I'll try to do it really quickly so that you're aware when it's ready for you. Okay, so we're going to be online synchronous Wednesdays from 6 to 8:20. Now, technically, I owe you a 10-minute break in class. So we're probably just going to stop at 8:10. If you have a major problem with that, you can let me know. I've never had a student come forward with something like that, especially since you're home and you can get up and go to the bathroom or get a snack or whatever anytime you feel like it. I mean, you could do that in a physical class too, but at home, nobody knows what you're doing. So I'm going to stop you probably at 8:10, like I said, unless there are any objections, just because I do owe you that 10-minute break in class. We're going to be meeting on Google Meet. I offered students the opportunity to switch over to Zoom, and every time I offered it, they were just like, no, we like this, which really surprised me because sometimes students are down on Google Meet. I don't know why, but it's what I've gotten used to, and I kind of like how Google is. I mean, everything's in your student email, in your student Gmail suite, so it's very easy to access. I don't know. I just like having it right there. And I do feel like Google has fewer downtimes than Zoom. Not that Zoom has a lot, but you're always getting these emails about people getting kicked off their Zoom calls and stuff. I haven't had really any issues with Google Meet. So I put our link here on the syllabus. You should be able to just go to meet.google.com and enter this meeting code and get on there. But what I am going to do, which I totally forgot to do, but you know what? I brought a pad of stickies with me so I could write notes of things to do as I go through the syllabus and realize that there were things I forgot to do. I am going to send out a Google Calendar invite. Now, you don't have to accept the calendar invite, but I would strongly urge you to do so. It will give you a reminder if you're in Gmail when your class is going to be starting soon, so it'll let you know. You have to be in your student Gmail in order to use this, by the way. Oh, that reminds me. This link is only going to work if you're using your ECC student Gmail. Otherwise, it's going to like make you wait outside the meeting for me to like let you in, and it's set to not let you in. I only want you in my class if you are in your ECC student Gmail account. So make sure you're signed into your student Gmail when you get onto our Meet. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get in. And then I'm going to be sending out emails during class saying, make sure you use your student email when you're trying to get into our Google Meet. So don't be entering from your personal Gmail. All right, so the reason the calendar invite is nice is because when I finish a synchronous meeting, even though, and by the way, those will be recorded, so I'm going to be putting those recordings on YouTube also and making those links available. But after class, you will also be able to access the Google Drive link for our synchronous class video. And that will be available in the calendar entry for that day. So that's one of the nice things about accepting the calendar invite. So it'll be set up so that it'll have you blocked out every Wednesday from 6 to 8:20. It'll remind you of when class is starting, and then whatever video we recorded during class will be available to you in your Drive. So that's why I would suggest you accepting the Google Calendar invitation when I send it, which is on my to-do list. So I'll very likely be doing that tomorrow. Tomorrow for me is Monday the 23rd because I'm recording this on Sunday the 22nd. Okay, so there's that. Gosh, you had no idea that it was going to take me 15 minutes to get through the first half of my syllabus first page. Here we are. Lots of information. Okay, so my office hours will be Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m. Now, those will be starting next week, Monday the 30th. I don't usually have office hours the first day of class. I know it's kind of a weird way that we're starting this out asynchronous, but I will be starting my office hours on Wednesday this week, the 25th. I will be on at 5:15. So if you got through and started working on, whenever you get your access code for Achieve, start working on the homework, or if you had any questions about integration review or finding the area between two graphs, feel free to pop onto the office hour. You don't have to come on exactly at 5:15. You can come on at 5:50 if you want. Just know that usually for Calc 2, the office hours are pretty busy. Now, I was told by my dean, and I keep forgetting to do this, that it would be a good idea if we stop saying office hours and start calling them student hours, because apparently there was some confusion where students thought that office hours were like times that the teachers like did their own stuff and they didn't want to be bothered by students. That's not what an office hour is. So I just want to clear that up right now. An office hour is when a teacher makes themselves available to the students. So if you had questions on your homework, or if you had questions on a concept that I covered in class, the office hour would be a great time to ask me some questions that you have. But like I said, do keep in mind the office hours are usually pretty busy. So if you have a question you want me to get to, the earlier you sign on, the better, because I'll just make a list of who's got what questions and I'll just sort of go through them in that order. So Mondays from 5 to 6 and Wednesdays from 5:15 to 6, and then 20 minutes after class. So that means if we stop class at 8:10, then I'll be on for the office hour until 8:30. On my office hour, will be on the same Google Meet link as above. The calendar entry, the invite that I'm going to send you, it's only going to have Wednesday blocked off, but you can always enter the Google Meet using the Wednesday calendar link. So you can go into Wednesday, click on this same Google Meet meeting, and it will get you into our class Google Meet. So it works that way too. I guess I could, well, I don't want to create like a separate one. It's everything, you know what, every semester is different nowadays that we're online. Every semester I do something different. It's very unfortunate. All right. Your textbook, I sent an email about. I believe all of you were registered in the class when I sent the email. I haven't gotten a ton of late enrollees. I'm going to double check though, just to make sure. I'm going to put that on my to-do list. Double check. Text email list to make sure. I want to make sure everyone has that information. So the deal with the textbook is, as though things weren't crazy enough. So our textbook publisher is like Macmillan, and I don't know if they were partnered with Cengage for a while and they branched off. Honestly, I don't know the whole story. But we switched over to Sullivan Miranda like 2 years ago. We were using a different textbook and we switched. And when we switched over to Sullivan Miranda, they were using the Cengage program called WebAssign. So if you took Calc 1 at ECC in the past couple of semesters, you would have used WebAssign to do your homework. WebAssign is something that's very similar to my math lab. If you've used that before, it's just an online homework system. And I finally got used to WebAssign. I didn't love it, but whatever, it was fine. And then Macmillan ended up sort of perfecting their own version of an online learning platform. And then Cengage no longer was supporting our book. So they moved our Sullivan Miranda Calculus ET2E over to Achieve, which is the Macmillan version of WebAssign, but it's different, so you can't use your WebAssign access code to access Achieve. So I wrote down here, this is your textbook, the ISBN, this is the bookstore ISBN. Now, another confusing part of this was that the bookstore ISBN is correct, but for some reason the label was coming up wrong where it said that it was like a MyLabs thing instead of Achieve. MyLabs is like a MyMathLab Pearson thing, which is not what we're using. But what they actually have for you to purchase in the bookstore is correct. This is the correct ISBN. I called, I talked to the manager. It's all there. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. I believe it's an unbound copy of the text, which means it should be 3-hole punched and you put it into a binder. If it's not 3-hole punched, send it back and say, no, 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 no. Something is wrong. You guys gave me a flop. Make sure I get a 3-hole punched copy. Now, since this is Calc 2, I'm assuming that most of you, probably all of you, already have the book from taking Calc 1 at ECC. If you don't, you can either buy the book or you can buy access to Achieve, which also includes a copy of the e-text. My Macmillan rep insists that the e-text is available with Achieve access. I've had mixed results with this on WebAssign, but he insists that if you get Achieve access, that you will have access to the e-text. Now, I don't know if it's printable. I don't think it is, but you can access it as long as you're online. Now, if you're like me, you're going to want a physical copy of the book, and you might want to just go to the bookstore and get the unbound copy. And honestly, if you're like me, you're probably just going to buy your book somewhere else so that you can get a bound copy. Nobody really likes those unbound copies. But you know what? Some people are just more particular than others. I still have all the calc books that I used in my life, even the ones I taught out of, the ones I learned out of. Some of you don't care about books as much as I do. So maybe you're just fine with having an e-text because you're never going to look at it again. So it doesn't matter anyway. You'd be surprised how often you're going to open your calc book again. You'd be very surprised. If I were you, I would like to have a hardcover copy, but I'm certainly not going to enforce that for an online class. You must have an actual physical copy of the book. I'm going to leave that up to you. If you just want to get Achieve access, that will give you access to doing the online homework, and it'll give you access to the e-text. So that if I do assign homework by hand, or if you want to look through examples in the textbook, which is going to be immensely helpful to you, you'll be able to access that through the e-text. But like I said, the e-text is only going to be available to you through Achieve when you're on the internet. So if your internet at home is kind of shaky, hopefully that's not the case for anyone anymore. But you want to make sure you can access that e-text when you need it. Okay, now like I said, Achieve is brand new to me. I looked up the course ID, and I think that's what they called the class key. On WebAssign, it was called class key. On Pearson, it's called something else. I think it's called course ID, and it did say it was going to be a combination of 6 lowercase letters and numbers, which this is. So that's what it said under course ID when I looked it up. Now, technically, I have the course set to start on 8/23, which for you guys is tomorrow. Which for you watching this video is today. For me right now is tomorrow. When I looked, it said my course was still in draft mode, but I think it will become available to you starting 8/23. So I'm going to check that before I go to bed tonight and just make sure. And as soon as it becomes available to, as soon as it's released to you, I can send you an invite to register. However, as part of my email for the text, I stated that you might not want to purchase access to Achieve, because if you previously purchased access to WebAssign, then Macmillan is going to give you a free Achieve access code. So the goal was that we wanted our students at ECC to be able to buy one book with WebAssign and use it for 2 semesters. But because it was technically their fault that they bumped us and switched us to a new system, they're going to front that cost. So don't buy the access if you don't want to, because you already paid for WebAssign. If you did not already pay for WebAssign, you need the access, then yes, buy it. I'll send you an invite. You don't need to buy an access code at the bookstore. You can just go to that link I put in your email for getting the Achieve access. You can enter our course ID, and that will get you into our class, and then it'll just prompt you to pay for it. If it's like My Math Lab and like WebAssign, there should be like a 14-day trial period. So that you don't have to pay for access right away. You should still be able to get into the course. So what I'm going to do, actually, as soon as I get off this video, is I'm going to send the class an invite to Achieve. And then you should get a link to get you into our class. And the course ID should be in the link too. So when I send you the invite, it should go to your ECC email. It should have a link that you click on it that It has our course ID in it. And if you click on that link, it should prompt you to either pay for access or check to see if there's like a 14-day trial period. If you're one of those people who wants to get started on your homework right away, if I were you, I would just do the 14-day trial period, because it might take these guys a couple days to get the access codes to me. I did send them an email. I did request at least 8 codes for the people who emailed me back already. Hopefully I'll get those tomorrow, and I'll get those to you right away. And then you won't have to worry about getting temporary access. But you should be able to get 14-day temporary access. I'm going to check on that too. Check temporary access to achieve. Okay. I hope that was clear. Okay, so if you are expecting me to give you a code and you don't want to pay for access, it might be in like the fine print somewhere that you can do a 14-day trial. Look for that. Don't pay for access if you are looking for a code from me, because I can't get you your money back. Only pay for access if you're not expecting to get a code from me. Again, email me about that if you have questions, but hopefully I've gone around in circles so many times that you have a very good idea now of what the deal is. Okay, calculator. You can use a TI 83, 83 plus, or 84. I will be using an 84 plus CE. I like the CE because it's the color edition, the graphs. If you have more than one graph, they'll come out in different colors. It's just easier to see. It also has built-in templates. You don't have to have that. I feel like it's easier to use. But if you are using someone else's calculator or your old calculator that you had from previous years, that's absolutely fine, as long as it's an 83, 83 plus, or 84. If you have an NSpire, not a CAS one, that will not work. But if you have an NSpire that you use like in high school and you're like married to it, it's very weird. Some high schools use NSpires and the students are very attached to them. That's fine. But if you ask me questions about how to do something on your NSpire, I probably won't be able to help you because I rarely ever use it. I have an NSpire, but it's the CAS version that I have just for personal use. And I don't play around with a lot of the graphing functions on it, because if I'm going to do that, I usually just use a different kind of system. So that's the deal with the calculators. You absolutely should get one. You won't use it all the time, but it's really helpful to have. It's funny how it's kind of counterintuitive. The further you get in math, the less often you actually need to use a calculator. When I was taking my graduate exams in grad school to get my master's degree in mathematics, I took a calculator in for my comprehensive exams. And I didn't even think to ask, but right at the last minute, I was like, oh, by the way, I have my calculator with me. Can I use it? And they were like, well, we don't know what you're going to do with it, but like, okay, it's fine. Because really, and as you go up in math, you just don't use a calculator. The stuff that you do isn't really calculator type stuff. Okay. Prereqs, you should have gotten at least a C or better in Calc 1. Some of you might have placed in this class. I think you can still place in with an ACT or SAT score, or with a placement test that you took through the testing center. Most of you, I think, took Calc 1 at ECC. Oh well, if you're in this class, hopefully you should be here and you'll know. So this is the second of 3 courses in the Calc sequence. Topics include applications of integrations. That's what we're going to start right away. Analytical integration techniques. Oh, I love that. Numerical integration techniques, indeterminate forms, L'Hopital's rule, and improper integrals. Sequences and series, convergence test, power series, Taylor polynomials and Taylor series, parametrization of curves and calculus of parametric curves, calculus of polar coordinate systems, and conic sections. So you have so much to look forward to this semester. It's going to be great. Okay, required course materials. Please bring the following with you to class every day. I would love for you to have your class notes and your calculator with you. I can't force you to do it. I would just like for you to do it. I really guess I can't even say required. It would be like suggested course materials. Attendance. So this was hard for me to put together. I always have an attendance policy, but I normally see my night students twice a week, and I'm only seeing you guys once a week. And there's really no way for me to actually ensure that you watch my YouTube asynchronous videos. So I can't really give you attendance based on that. So I'm giving you a little leeway here. If I mark you absent for more than 3 classes, so those would be Wednesday classes, you'll be subject to withdrawal. So if you miss 3 classes, okay, that's not good, but hopefully you'll at least go watch the recording later. I know things do happen, but more than 3, I will drop you. I don't technically have to give you a warning. I try to, but very honestly, sometimes it's hard for me to keep up with all the attendance, and it sort of accumulates, and then all at once I realize, like, holy cow, this person's missed a lot of class. Seems like everything kind of comes to a head all of a sudden. If you're late to class, check with me after class to make sure I marked you present. It is your responsibility to review the recordings to complete any notes you missed. A lot of times what Google does now is they send me like a meeting summary, and they'll send me a list of who was there, what time they got there, and what time they left. So sometimes I forget to take attendance and I just refer to that sheet, but I really feel like that sheet's probably pretty good that they give me. So I have a pretty good idea. So if I, for whatever reason, marked you absent and later on I go and check the sheet and it says you were there, then it's not a big deal, but do try to ask. Just because I would hate to be marking you late if you were actually, or marking you absent if you were actually there, and then possibly withdrawing you from the course would be terrible. Grading. Oh, if you took Calc 1 with me, I don't think this has changed. Homework is going to be 20%. That is 20% of your grade that should be, I almost want to say, easy for you to get. You have to actually do the homework. But if you actually do the homework and you actually work on it, that should be an easy 20%. The way I currently have the homework set up is that you have unlimited attempts. So you can try the exercises as many times as you want to. So officially, depending on how much time you have, I mean, you can just work on a problem over and over again until you get it right. It's 20% just because I want to make sure you're doing the work. And it's just sort of a way to buffer your grade out a little bit. Quizzes are 10%. I'll talk about quizzes in a minute. We won't have like a ton of them, so I didn't want to make them worth too much. Chapter exams, we'll have 4 of them, and those will be worth 55% of your grade combined. So each one will just represent 1/4 of that 55%. Your final exam is going to be 15%. I actually wanted to make it less just because we're online, but according to the rules that ECC has set out for this class, it has to be at least 15%. It used to be 20% that I would set the final exam as, but now I've left it at 15. But that's still a big chunk of your grade. What I do want to say about homework is every single semester, and if you've had me before, you've heard this speech before, sorry if I'm preaching to the choir, every semester I have a student who just doesn't want to do their homework, maybe does at most half of it, and that's the student who's freaking out at the end of the class, begging for extra credit, which, by the way, I don't have. Like, this is your class grade right here. There's not all this random stuff that's just sitting out there that I'm going to throw in. There's nowhere built into this class where I have all this extra credit. So if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out, I didn't do my homework, maybe I can get extra credit, the answer is going to be no. And I'm going to try to say that in the nicest way possible because I really don't want to burst your bubble. But I'm telling you right now, you need to do your homework. It's 20% of your grade. Do yourself a favor and just do the homework. Even if you don't get hundreds on it, that's still a big chunk of your grade that you want to do well on. All right, that being said, course grade, A, B, C, D, F, standard scale, 90, 80, 70, 60. Your homework is going to be assigned on a weekly basis. Any homework that's assigned will be due the following Wednesday at 6 p.m. So that means anything I cover in an asynchronous video and anything that I cover that Wednesday is going to be due the following Wednesday. So you will have like almost a week to complete all that homework. So like, let's say after class Wednesday. Oh, by the way, I'm giving you an extra week at the beginning. It's on Achieve. We'll look at it. But your first homework assignment won't actually be due until September 1st. Just because I don't even have access codes for you right now. And even though technically there should be a 14-day trial, it's new to me. And I know it's new to you. I usually give students a little bit of a buffer at the beginning of the semester. And since I don't have to worry about Labor Day anymore because it's not affecting our schedule now that we're online. Well, actually, it would be Wednesday anyway, but still, I used to have to account for that. September 1st will be the due date for your first homework assignment. That's a week from Wednesday. Obviously, I want you to start sooner. If you wait till the last minute and try to do all the assignments that will have accumulated by then, you're going to, I don't want to say you're going to be in a world of pain. It's not, maybe you will feel like you're in a world of pain. But it's not going to be a good situation. You don't want to fall behind. Once you fall behind, you're going to have a really hard time catching up. So do the homework. Anything I assign will be due the following Wednesday at 6 p.m. Late homework will not be accepted. The lowest 3 homework scores will be dropped. It's typical that for every 1 hour spent in class, you should expect to study and do homework for at least 1 hour outside of class. This class is supposed to take a lot of your time. Sorry, that's just the way it is. It's Calc 2. It's not actually supposed to be an easy class. You've probably heard that. If you're not spending that much time on it, then it's probably the case that you're not going to be doing very well in the class. Some of you are just naturally really good at math, and maybe you won't need to spend as much time on it. But I can remember being a student in Calc 2, and I spent tons of time doing my homework, tons of time. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so our homework is going to be on Achieve. I'm trying to think, every once in a while, I have students do homework by hand if it's something that I feel like our online learning platform hasn't handled very well. So in Calc 1, when you guys were doing curve sketching, where you had to write out all the information about like a graph, and then at the end of it, you would finally graph the function, and it would take so long to do. That's the kind of thing I made students do by hand. In Calc 2, I don't know if I have any topics that I really don't like. I guess we'll find out on Achieve because it's going to be a little bit different, but we'll see. I think most of it should be okay for Achieve. Maybe some of the sequences and series stuff in Chapter 8 we might have to do by hand. We'll see. I will, of course, let you know by email. Quizzes. So we're going to have a really short quiz at the beginning of class each Wednesday, assuming there's not an exam scheduled. Now, you're going to have 4 tests in this class and a final. So that's 5 out of our 17 weeks right there. So that means at the very most, you're going to have 12 quizzes. I would expect to have more like 10, just because I'm not giving you one this Wednesday. And I don't, oh yeah, there's going to be a Wednesday where we're not meeting because of Thanksgiving break. So, which I didn't think about until after I put up our tentative schedule. So we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. So it'll probably be more like 8 to 10 quizzes. But they're going to be short. They're going to be more conceptual because I'm not going to be proctoring you on these quizzes. They're going to be on D2L. They're going to be multiple choice unless I find that I like another format better and start to use that more. But it's more of like, do you understand the concept kind of thing? And it's mostly set up so that you can't just plug it into an algorithm and answer it. That's what I try to do. Makes it a little bit more conceptual. Okay. So that's the deal with the quizzes. They're going to be timed. It's possible that they might be more like 15 minutes. I don't think I've actually done this online for Calc 2 with the D2L quizzes. No, I haven't. So this is going to be a little bit of different. I did it for Calc 1 a couple of times. A couple different semesters, I should say, but not for Calc 2. But they're going to be on D2L, and then at the beginning of class on Wednesday, in case you forget about the quiz and log on to our Google Meet, I'm going to have something up there saying go to D2L and take your quiz, and then you'll be like, oh crap, I have to go do that. But hopefully you'll get into the swing of it really quickly. But you have to be to class on time for that. It's at the beginning of class. It's going to be timed, and it's going to cut you off at a certain time. So make sure you're there. Chapter exams, there are going to be 4 of them. You may not make any of them up. A score of 0 will be given for any exams that are missed. That's a little bit rougher than it was if you took my Calc 1 class. And it's just the way that this material is set up. There's really no other way to break it up that makes sense, because we're really going to be covering just 4 chapters. And this is just kind of the way it's going to go. So sorry, you have to be there for all the tests. There's not going to be a dropped test. They're all going to count. So you have to do well on all of them. It's true. Submitting written work. Okay. So for your exams, oh gosh, I cannot wait to get back into the classroom. So what I've been doing the past couple semesters is I give you an exam just like I would if you were in class. The difference is that I have to proctor you from home. So I'm going to have your test in like a PDF format. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have everybody sign on so that I can, maybe a couple minutes early, so I can check your workstation. I'm going to send you an email before the test, by the way, with some examples of what a good workstation looks like. Because there are going to be some things I need to see. Like I need to see both of your hands, 2/4 of your screen. I need to see what's in front of you, that sort of thing. So you're going to need to give me a good viewing angle. When I have checked your workspace and you're good to go, and I've checked your ID and I know who you are, then I'm going to email you the PDF of the exam, and you're going to get started working on it. If you have a printer, you're going to print it out. If you don't have a printer, that's fine. You're going to write your work just on the paper of your choice. But however, when you're done with the exam, you're going to have to submit your written work to D2L. We've been online for a while now, and you are probably very familiar with how to do that. If you have a system that you already like, that's fine. Feel free to use it. I suggest Genius Scan just because it's what I use, and I find that it always works for me. A lot of students like Cam Scanner. I've had a lot of students lately use Adobe Scan. I've even had students who work on their tablets and they write everything out on their tablets because they have like a stylus and it's kind of set up really nicely like that. And then they save that to a PDF and then they upload that. And that's actually really nice to grade too. If you do have a printer, I really prefer that you print out the exam. It makes it so much easier for me to grade if you write on the actual exam itself. But if you don't have a printer, that's fine. Either way, the key here is that I want you to upload your test to D2L by scanning all of your pages to one PDF file. So not like 10 different JPEGs, one PDF file. If you've never had to do that before, then I have a link here to a YouTube tutorial that I put together where I showed myself doing this using Cam Scanner. Or not Cam Scanner, it was Genius Scan. But feel free to use whichever scanning app you like best. If you feel comfortable with that already, fine. If you would like some practice submitting this to D2L, I'll set up a practice folder in the assignments tab before the test so that you can just practice making sure that you have everything ready to upload properly and that you know how to upload, so on and so forth. But again, before any test, I'm going to send out detailed instructions because I want to make sure that everyone knows what they're getting into before the test comes, because it is a process now. It's not just like coming to class, me giving you a paper. It's got to get uploaded to D2L. That's where I grade it. Don't email it to me. Okay. I have some tentative chapter exam dates here. The one that I expect might move actually is test 1. If anything moves, it'll be that one. And it might move to the week of September 20th. It could happen. I don't know. We'll see. Chapter 6 can be kind of a bear. I mean, Calc 2 is challenging in general, and every student's going to have their chapter that they find to be more challenging than another. For me, it was chapter 8 when I was a student in Calc 2. Oh my gosh, like I almost gave up on chapter 8. I really struggled with that, but I have a lot of students who love chapter 8. So it's kind of just strengths and weaknesses. But in general, students tend to need a lot more time on chapter 6. Even though it's not that many sections, they are kind of time consuming. So if anything moves, it'll probably be test 1. But we'll see. We'll kind of see how things go, and you can let me know along the way how you're doing. But these are tentative dates. Nothing is set in stone except test 4. Test 4 is not going to move. That is going to be on December 8th. It has to be because our final exam is a week from that date on 12/15. So, oh, and by the way, if you're confused about these dates, when I say week of 8/23, these are always Mondays. And, you know, just the week numbers next to them. I like to know what week we're in. It kind of helps me. And then I don't forget to upload my midterm grades and get mean, like, emails from people being like, why didn't you upload your midterm grades? I want to kind of know where we are. So I am going to have to fiddle a little bit with the schedule too, the week of Thanksgiving. So so we'll kind of see. I mean, this is all tentative, but I play it by ear. I kind of see how you guys are doing. Every class is different. Kind of go from there. If you no longer wish to be in this class, you must formally withdraw through registration in order to avoid a possible failing grade. So that means if you just stop coming, I mean, yeah, I will technically drop you after you've missed more than 3 classes. But if you want to get a refund, then you need to withdraw by 9/5 through registration. So that's got to be a formal thing that you do. For a 50% refund, you must withdraw by September 12th. Now, the date that you need to keep in mind is November 7th, and that is a Sunday. It's always a Sunday for your drop date. But if you think you're not going to pass and you're worried that you don't want to have an F or a D on your transcript, the last date to drop with a W is November 7th. If you stop coming after that, or if you fail the class, whatever happens at that point, you will be given whatever grade you have, a D or an F, or if you withdraw after 11/7, you'll be given an F. But if you finish out the course, you get whatever grade you get. Could be a D, could be an F, could be ABC. Maybe you worked really hard and brought your grade up. Who knows? But keep that date in mind. I'll try to remind you as the time draws nearer. I'm better about it in the fall, but we'll see. So my important tips for success are don't fall behind. I kind of said that before, but it's really important. I know that a lot of the people that are taking Calc 2 are also taking engineering physics and chemistry and computer programming and other random gen eds. I know that, and I know some of you are going to be really overwhelmed, and not everyone's going to pass this class. But the best way to ensure that you will have the best chance at passing this class is to make sure that you're keeping up with the coursework. And if you're frustrated and you feel like, I don't know, I'll figure this out later. Well, how long are you going to wait? It's only going to keep accumulating. Don't fall behind. It's extremely hard to come from behind after you have missed some time. Try to stay on top of this. Don't leave anything blank. It drives me crazy when I get tests where complete questions are left blank, because especially in Calc 2, a lot of times each question could be worth 15 points. And if you leave it blank, well, right off the bat, you're losing a ton of points. So don't leave anything blank. Do your best. Turn in whatever you've done. Hopefully you can get some partial credit. When I grade tests, I give as much partial credit as I can. I have like a rubric that I'm using, and there's like a point for this, a point for that. So even if you just got the setup right, that's points that are going to be awarded to you. So don't leave anything blank. I would suggest you read the text. It's not just for homework problems. I think it's an invaluable resource, especially if you are really stuck on a certain topic and maybe you watched my lecture. And, sometimes when you have a question about something, it's kind of like, okay, well, I get what she did, but I'm not sure exactly why she did it, or would it work in this case? And then you're kind of double thinking things and you're like, well, I need to see more examples so I can compare and contrast. And you might be in that situation. That's a place where your textbook would be very helpful to you. Of course, there's always Khan Academy or any of those other resources that are available generally. But I'm going to be following along with your text pretty closely. So I suggest you look at it. You paid for it, maybe. As extra practice, it's recommended to work through additional exercises in the text, or technically, I haven't actually figured out, I haven't looked, sorry, there's been a lot of weird stuff going on. Achieve extra problems to do. Because there used to be a way in like WebAssign and in my math lab where students could do extra problems that I didn't assign. I'm sure there's a way to do it in Achieve. I just want to make sure I can figure out where that pathway is so I can sort of guide you along. But since you'll have access to the e-text through Achieve, you can always work on any odd homework problems you want. And you'll be able to look at the odd numbered answers in the back of the book. If it's an e-text, you're going to have to go into the appendix, but at least the answers will be there so that you can see them and see if you answered correctly. So in case there's an odd number that I didn't assign where you were like, oh man, I wish you would have assigned this one because I feel like it would have been really helpful to go through it, that's fine. Do the problem and check the answer in the back of the book. It is Calc 2. Some of these problems take a long time. I try to keep the homework assignments a little bit lighter. It won't feel light to you, but it's always less than I want to assign because I know that it's going to take you a while to trudge through it. So I'm not going to be assigning like all the odds. No way. It would take you so long to do the assignment. I try to just stick with like what are the main concepts that I need them to get. So like I said, if you want to go through more examples, that's great. That's what I did in Calc 2. I just went through and did all the problems. Somehow, somebody in my class got me a copy of like the even numbered solutions, and I would just go through all the even numbered problems and then check my answers with that. I had a lot of shady contacts back in the day, but I did all the homework. It was only shady contacts that would help me to be successful. It's true. We didn't have like all the E stuff back then. Okay, come to office hours, also known as student hours. Ask questions in class if something isn't clear. In the classroom, it's much easier for me to gauge when students are stuck on something. I can tell because I get to know the looks on your faces. It's much harder for me to read that online, especially when so many of you don't keep your cameras on. So my plea to you is to please keep your cameras on during class as often as you can. It really helps me. Some of you I've had in previous semesters, so I know a couple of you that I think will be good about it. Gosh, it just helps me. I can't tell you how hard it is for me to teach into a computer screen full of all these little squares with, someone's first initial on them, and just like, I don't know, I guess someone's over there listening to me. I don't know, like maybe. And the thing is, when I don't see people, I assume that like they're doing something else and they're not paying attention. And maybe you're sitting there taking notes and doing an awesome job. And it would really help me to know that, because it would be good for my morale. If I think you're just sitting there munching on, chips and watching Seinfeld while this computer plays in the background, then it's sort of bad for me as your instructor. So turn on your camera so that I can see how hard you're working. I would like that. But come to the office hours. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother her. That's what they're there for. Literally, that is the whole purpose of the office hour, is so that I can meet with you and answer any questions that you have. And I know some of you, and I know the office hours are going to be full because I know that you were in my office hours all the time for Calc 1. So there will be people in the office hour, so don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the only one there. I've had students in the past that don't really have questions, but they come to the office hour anyway because they want to listen in and see what questions other people have, and maybe it will spark a question that they didn't really consider. So that's something to think about too. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, if I come to office hour, I have to say something. You don't. If you're the only person in my office hour, I'll probably check in with you and say like, hey, did you have a question? And then if you say, oh no, I just thought I'd pop on, that's cool. I'll just say, okay, let me know if you have anything. No pressure. No pressure. All right. Please note, any behavior that interferes with the learning environment and disrupts the classroom experience of others is prohibited. Honestly, the only thing that ever happens is like someone excessively talking during my lecture. I don't even really have a problem with my students not muting themselves. My students are generally very good at that. I just sometimes have some really chatty students who don't know when it's appropriate to, like, you know, zip the lip, but usually it's not an issue, especially online. But I have to put that note in my syllabus just so that you will know. Cheating, this is especially pertinent these days. Any cases of cheating will be dealt with severely. Cheating includes, but is not limited to, A, use of any unauthorized assistance in taking quizzes, tests, or exams. B, use or dependence on the aid of sources beyond those permitted or authorized by the instructor in solving problems or carrying out other assignments. C, the acquisition without permission of tests or other academic material belonging to a member of the college faculty or staff. Academic dishonesty has serious consequences. These may include a failing grade for the assignment, a failing grade in the course, up to and including expulsion from the college. Refer to the Code of Student Conduct in the current ACC catalog. I try to proctor you as well as I can on the test. I don't want to have any issues. That's why I proctor you. If I feel like I can't see what's going on in your camera angle, I'm going to send you an email and let you know. I might stop you in mid-test and let you know. I'll probably do that actually, because there are occasions where I'm grading tests and I'm just like, no, something is a little bit shifty over here. And that's really why I wasn't proctoring students when we first went online. I was just like, there's no way I can watch everybody. I'm not even going to try. No one's going to comply. And then I started making people comply because it became a major problem. And I haven't really had a problem the last 2 semesters, which is good because the last 2 semesters I was teaching Calc 1, which is a lot of you guys. So hopefully we'll be good. But I'm not playing around with this cheating. When you have a grade in Calc 2 and it's on your transcript, then your teachers after this will think that you did well in Calc 2. And you need to know the material, obviously, to move on to your next class. And if you pass out of my class and then you go to another class like Calc 3 and you have no idea what you're doing, your Calc 3 teacher, who's probably going to be Bailey or Campbell, is going to be like, what was that Faruqi doing over there? Obviously, this kid has no clue what they're doing. What happened? So that makes me look bad. So it's very important to me that the grade you earn is the grade that you earned. ECC Math Lab. Okay, so the good news is that even though we are online, you may still go to the ECC Math Lab in person because it's open again. Small study groups can use the Math Lab as a place to meet, problem solve together, and get help if needed. You may also print things in the Math Lab. Small groups are limited to 2 students. Okay. I don't know exactly what the rules are. I don't know what their plan is in case something happens with COVID. I don't know, but right now they're planning to be open Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you have shaky internet at home and you're trying to get your Achieve homework done, you can go to the Math Lab. I believe even the regular ECC computer labs are open if the Math Lab is open. And you can work on your homework there. You can meet with fellow classmates there if you want to. I know some of you will only want to study by yourselves, but honestly, some of you will be like, gosh, I got to get out of this house. Or maybe you're at school for a lab during the day and maybe you only have Calc 2 online, your other classes are at school. Go to the Math Lab, get some homework done, use the computers. you know, meet with your friends. It's very important to meet with your friends. My nephew is 20, and I'm very worried that he's not meeting with his friends enough. And his classes are online at Harper. It's very upsetting. Meet with your friends, you guys. Don't become hermits. Tutoring. Oh, this is great, by the way. Tutoring. If you are like, wow, her office hours are limited, well, it's true. I'm required to have for you guys 2 hours and 5 minutes of office hours per week, and that's what we have. But if you're like, I have more questions than she can possibly answer in an office hour, what will I do? Begging me for more office hours is not the way to go. I'm very busy. It's true, I am busy. But I know you're busy too. But tutoring is available through the ECC library. It is online currently. I don't think that they're taking anybody in person right now. I didn't receive any information that there was a change to this. But you know what? I'm going to add that to my list of things to check. Tutoring in person? I doubt it, because usually it's like a bunch of people sitting at a table together and they probably just want to keep it online. But I've known some of my students in the last couple of semesters have used the online tutoring a lot. And I don't think there's a limit to how many sessions you can sign up for. I mean, obviously, if you sign up for a session, show up to it. Don't take up a session and not come. But there are links here so that you can get to the Google Doc and go to the tutoring center. Don't wait until it's too late. As soon as you get off this video, I hope you're making notes, but write a note to yourself to sign up for tutoring, or at least I think you have to request access or something. We can probably talk about this more on Wednesday for some people who already know how to do that. But yeah, use the online tutoring. It's free, and they're actually math instructors. They're not just like randos who are trying to help you with math that are working out of some office in Ohio or something. These are actual people who are working out of ECC or working from home, but they're ECC employees, math teachers or math tutors, and not all of them will be able to help you with Calc 2, so check and make sure first. I should look availability for Calc 2, because some of them are like instructors who only teach like algebra. So they don't have as many for Calc 2, but they are available. We also, I mean, we have fewer Calc 2 students than algebra students, so we don't really need as many. Okay. So that's tutoring. And all this information is also available on the elgin.edu/tutoring page. Disability services. This is my last paragraph for you. ECC welcomes students with disabilities and is committed to supporting them as they attend college. If a student has a disability, visual, oral, speech, emotional, psychiatric, orthopedic, health, or learning, he or she may be entitled to some accommodation, service, or support. While the college will not compromise or waive essential skill requirements in any course or degree, students with disabilities may be supported with accommodations to help meet these requirements. The laws state a person does not have to reveal a disability, but if support is needed, documentation of the disability must be provided. If none is provided, the college does not have to make any exceptions to standard procedures. To request accommodations, contact the SDS office to schedule an intake appointment and submit documentation. Your contact for that is Patrina Probst. Her phone number is here. Her email is here. I think she's in the building B125, but I don't know how the appointments work. What that means is you need to advocate for yourself. So if you have some sort of disability and you need an accommodation, even if it's something that you think is minor, like extra test time, if you have a documented disability that will allow you to get that time, then you need to make sure that you're getting that documentation and giving it to me. You can't just ask me for extra test time, and you can't say like, oh, I have test anxiety, can I have extra time on my test? I mean, you can ask away all you want, but I'm not going to be making any exceptions to standard procedures unless I have that official documentation. So make sure that you get that documentation to me. I normally have that forwarded straight from the SDS office. If you're not sure whether I got it, feel free to send me an email and just verify that I received your documentation. I believe if you're one of these extra time on the test people, I believe the testing center is open. Their hours might be limited, but that is available to you as well. You might find that to be easier. I wish everybody could test in person because it would save me a lot of time and hassle, but such is life in 2021. But yes, make sure that your documented disability is, your paperwork is given to me. Make sure that if you have a disability that you actually get it documented so that you can get the help that you need. It's important. We want you to be successful. Okay, this is stuff I have to put on my syllabus. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, all these crazy things we have to put on it. And sometimes I'm like, which thing do they want? And I just put it all on there. Anyway, feel free to peruse at your leisure. Okay. That was the syllabus. And it took like exactly an hour and 6 minutes. Let me mark that down, syllabus. Okay. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm really sorry, but I'm kind of addicted to my Peloton. And if I talk about my Peloton sometimes, it's because a lot of times, it's been a while since I've actually been a student. So sometimes I tend to apply a lot of the lessons that I learned, like exercising, to things that you would need to do mathematically. So if I do that, it's not weird. I swear it's not. I'm really into my Peloton. So sorry in advance. But if you have a Peloton and you want to bond over it, we'll bond. But if I'm making a lot of like references to it, it's just because I sometimes feel like there are a lot of parallels between trying to get better when you exercise and trying to get better mathematically. Okay, the other addition to my life that is something you might hear a lot is that I have 3 kids, and they're 2, 4, and 6. And they're a little loud. If you had my classes before, you probably heard them sometimes yelling in the background. Because it's an evening class, they're home. My husband is home watching them in the evenings. However, sometimes he's like outside mowing the lawn and he doesn't realize that they're like in the house, like pounding on the door to the office where I'm teaching. So my apologies in advance. It doesn't happen very often. A lot of times I hear them, but then students are like, we don't hear them. So they're little. We also have a 5-month-old German Shepherd, and he's really, really loud. But try to keep that to a minimum. Usually my husband takes the kids to the park so they get quiet, and then everything is nice and quiet for me. But the good news is you guys are my only class this semester. It wasn't supposed to be that way. Like I said, weird things ended up happening with my schedule. I ended up dropping my 112 class. And now I just have you guys. So the nice thing is you don't have to email me and say something like, hi, my name is so-and-so from your Calc 2 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, or Wednesday night session. You don't have to say that. I just want your name and your email so that you tell me who you are. I'll know what class you're from because I only have 1 class this semester. You guys have my full attention, which I'm very excited about. I'm just kind of ready to only have 1 class this semester. The last couple of semesters have been really bonkers. So that's good. You guys are my only class. I'm home with my children during the day. I'm very happy to be with you guys for office hours Monday evening and like all night Wednesday. It's honestly just sort of a nice way for me to kind of just do something other than being a mom, which I love, but it's taxing. What else? I was a student at ECC years ago. and I graduated from ECC and went to U of I, where I got my undergraduate degree in math. And then I got my graduate degree in math from NIU. I taught high school for technically 2 years. And then I got a job at ECC, which is where I always wanted to work, but I was teaching GED math when I first started. That was 2011. Yes, it was 10 years ago. But I started teaching the college level classes pretty shortly after that. I teach Calc 2 a lot. I don't know how many times I've taught Calc 2, but it's a lot. I teach it often. I teach Calc 1 a lot. So this is what I love to do. I always try to pick Calc 2 if it's available. Sometimes the other teachers grab it first. I'm like pretty high on the seniority, but not like all the way up there. But I do love teaching this class. So I'm very, very happy this semester to be teaching it again. I taught this class asynchronously like 2 semesters ago. I want to say it was spring, and I had picked it up from someone else, so I couldn't change it to be synchronous. And if you had heard about that class through someone who took it at the time, this is going to be structured very differently. I'm not going to be doing the video guides. I'm not going to be doing like the little clips that you pick out from D2L. It's basically just going to be like your asynchronous lectures are going to be like this, but usually I'll be teaching instead of just yapping at you. And then Wednesday nights, it'll just be as though you were in person, except you're at home. I kind of just want it to be as much like a regular class as possible without you guys having to do a bunch of hoopla. Just try to keep it simple. I didn't want to add a bunch of random assignments in there. I want to just kind of try to teach the class the way I used to, just online. What else was I going to say? Anything? I don't think so. Okay. I'm going to show you Achieve really, really quickly because I don't really have a lot to show you because there's not a whole lot up there yet. I have to add to the course. But let me check it real quick and make sure. See how it's showing up for me now that it's past midnight. It might be showing up as available instead of draft. See. Yes. Okay, it's showing up as a current course. That means that I can send you guys invites to it. So I'm going to do that as soon as I get off this call. I call it a call, but not really a call. Okay, so I'm going to unshare this. Here we go. And then I'm going to share my tab, which I believe is a student view currently. Yes. Okay, let me see. Too many tabs open. I can't find you guys now. Share a tab. Maybe. Here we go. Let me double check. There it is. Okay, so this says you're currently viewing your course as a student. So when I send you a link to add this class, I believe this is your home page that you would see when you just click on my course. I believe that's what this is. It's going to have like a calendar up there and it'll tell you what's due. So like I believe it sets you out automatically on assignments, but it says this week there's nothing due. Next week, it says that on September 1st at 6 p.m. you have 6.1 homework due. It had me add a point total, and I have to verify that that's correct because I've never been asked to do that before. So that's one thing I want to look up. But the training assignment I want you to do right away, it's if you took the WebAssign orientation, it's basically that. It's just kind of just working with the Achieve software and just making sure that you understand how to use the templates to enter answers and where to find the hints. The one weird thing about, let me see if I can preview this because I was going to show you the one weird thing I thought about the Achieve homework. I'll go into this assignment. Student preview. Sure. And now I have to share this tab instead. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do in here, and this is just 8 questions. So it's going to tell you to enter a number. Well, I'm going to enter the wrong one just because. And it's just a little bit funny the way that you have to do these. Sometimes I have to cover. Okay, so I'm going to enter the wrong things. And then when I say check answer, it's going to give me this feedback on it, the parts with the red symbol. Sorry, I just want to make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay. Parts with a red no symbol have been answered incorrectly. Click on try again and view the hint. Okay, so you can close the feedback. And what I find weird about this, and it's not very intuitive, is you can't just automatically click back in the box and resubmit your answer. If you try to do that and you start typing, like nothing happens, you actually have to hit the try again button. So if I hit try again, now it actually lets me try to resubmit the answer. And you should have unlimited attempts on this. You can click the hint. Now this is just a tutorial, so it's not really something you're supposed to have to think about. So it basically just tells you what to do. It won't always do that, but it'll tell you what attempt you're on. I don't know what happens if you say give up. I guess it maybe doesn't let you work on it anymore. But you can check answer this time and it'll say, okay, no, now this part's the part that's wrong. And you'll know that the first part was the part that was right. But even if you didn't finish it, you can always leaf through it, get to the next one. It'll save your progress as you work your way through. So we did half that problem correctly. You got half the points for it. Yeah, I set this up to be out of 8, so that makes sense that it says that. Okay. So then you can kind of just like leaf your way through and, you know, just have you enter things. If you're entering pi, you should be able to type pi and it'll turn it into a pi. You should have been able to do that also on WebAssign, but pi switches it automatically to a pi. So that's an option for you, or you can actually go down to the symbol palette and use the actual pi symbol. You can do that as well. But anytime you're entering a radical, you would enter, you know, like this template. If it was a cube root, fine, you could use this one. But if it's some other root, some sort of like a 5th root or a 6th root, make sure that you're using the right template. When I worked at Pearson, we would have students who didn't know how to do this. So I used to work for Pearson. I would write my math lab homework problems. I actually still work for them as a freelancer, which is my other job that I do when I'm not teaching you guys. Coincidentally, they sent me an assignment to do like a review of Achieve. And I was like, no problem, I'm using it this semester. I used to have customer support queries where people would try to enter like a 5th root by entering the 5th as like a superscript, and then they would enter a square root, and it looked kind of right, but if you see it enough times, you're like, wait a second, I know what the problem is. So if you're doing like a 5th root, make sure you actually use the 5th root, something like that. So you'll see there are trig templates too. I actually have not played around with this as much as I had hoped at this point, because I don't think if you entered sign, oh, it does automatically give you sign. Okay, you'll know it's a function because it switches the font. But if you just start typing, it's in italics, and that's not good. But if it switches over to your basic block font, then it should be in that function for you. But, you know, here's your Greek alphabet. More would be like parentheses, any sort of, I don't know, grouping symbols, cups, empty sets, inequalities. You won't need vectors in this class. Infinity signs. I believe if it's something you're going to need for a specific problem, it should be listed there. So if it's not listed there, then that's probably kind of a hint that you won't need it. So yeah, you won't need a lot of this DNE stuff, except when we work on some of the limits in chapter 7. You'll occasionally see that. But yeah, so it's kind of the way it works. It's a little bit more finicky than WebAssign, but for them, I've never gotten anything to not work as I've played around with this. It just took me a little bit of getting used to. So Sorry, I know that some of you just got used to WebAssign and now you got to get used to this. You know what? Life changes all the time. Change is the only constant. So yeah, kind of work your way through that. Let me know if you run into any issues. Like I said, oh, and by the way, on this tutorial, it basically gives you the what to enter here. It kind of gives you the answers. It doesn't expect you to actually know the math. So that's kind of helpful, even though you technically should know how to answer these. Okay. What else was I going to show you? Oh yeah, I forgot. So I'm going to close this out, which I think I was sharing. So now it's gone. I wanted to show you in Achieve, back to my student view, I hope. Oh, a forbidden error. Hold on. Okay. I'll just share this with you because you might as well see the forbidden errors I'm getting instead of being confused about them. There we go. Okay. There we go. Am I in student view? No. Here we go. Student preview. So this is your student preview. Notice at the bottom, there's a link to the Desmos graphing calculator. I'm going to be using this quite a bit, actually. If you took my Calc 1 class previously, you knew that I used to use the TI emulator, and then this college wasn't paying for it. I'll probably get them to pay for it this semester because now my money started back up in the fall. But anyway, I feel like Desmos is actually easier to use, and it's easier to flip over there. But watch what happens if I click on Desmos. I'm probably going to have to share a new tab now. But it'll open a new tab for you, and the tab will look like this. Now, the nice thing about this is that, I'm verifying that this is sharing properly. Okay. You can basically type anything you want, not anything, but like, okay, y equals 2x plus 5. Great, there it is. It's got a y-intercept of 5 and a slope of 2. But you can also type in equations that are not functions, like that. Well, actually, that's not a function. Let's see. But you catch my drift. You can type in equations, and they may not be functions. This one is not a function. And kind of play around with it. And it will graph a lot of things for you. So if you took Calc 1 with me over the summer, we probably used this to graph equations when we were trying to find tangent lines using implicit differentiation. It's much easier to do it this way. You can mess with the settings as much as you want. When we do polar coordinates, you can even use polars. Is anyone getting excited about Calc 2 now? Very exciting stuff. Now, this is accessible to you, like I said, through that link in Achieve. However, if you just go to desmos.com, you can also find the Desmos graphing calculator. Sometimes if I have to write graphs for you on the test, I'll just make them on Desmos and then just like get them exactly how I want them as far as the axes and the labels and everything. And then I'll just download them and pop them into your test. It's a very, very helpful tool. And students always want to know, like, oh, can I use this calculator on a test? Yeah, technically you can. It is a resource that's available to you. So there's that. Another thing, I'm going back to our student view here. There are all these resources that are available to you. I actually removed a lot of them because I felt like they were really, like, it was just a lot and there were a lot of things and I didn't want you guys being confused of like, am I supposed to do this? And I didn't find a lot of them to be that great, but the Desmos link is also in the resource type. The course content was where I started to remove a lot of things, but I'm going to build this as we go along. But Welcome to Achieve is where you would find the graphing calculator and the training assignment. And in the applications of integration, this is where you'll find the chapter 6 homework. So it is all going to be organized there really nicely, because once you have a lot of assignments in here, it might be a little bit harder to find them. So like if you go back to assignments, like once we're in chapter 8, if you want to look back at something from chapter 6, I don't know how nicely everything is going to display here under past assignments. So we shall see. But yeah, that's achieved. So you kind of have an idea now of what it looks like. The first homework assignment will be for 6-1. And you'll have something like this to do. Find the area of the region between the curves, and you'll have to type in what the area is. So we should get started on that pretty soon here. I'm going to go ahead and discuss with you, though, just a little bit of quick integration review. A lot of the integration review that I would normally go over is stuff you're going to see automatically in 6-1, 6-2, 6-3. There's a lot of integration in there. It's just a lot more basic. You're not going to see a lot of crazy integrals. So I just wanted to remind you quickly of what to do if you see an integral that requires something like integration by substitution, so on and so forth. So I'm going to stop presenting, and I'm going to put my sheet up here. Sorry, I feel bad that I've just been talking, but there's just so much information that I need to give you on the first day. Oh, I didn't even get to D2L, but I guess I haven't really put a bunch of stuff up there. You can check that out on your own. Like I said, there's not like a ton of stuff right now. So. Okay. When I'm teaching you, by the way, synchronously on Wednesday nights, I'm not going to be down here. I'm going to be upstairs. But everyone's sleeping upstairs right now, so I'm down here in the dining room, which I'm okay with because this is my favorite wallpaper, which makes this my favorite room, but I'm not in it a lot except when I'm doing asynchronous lectures. If you find that it's harder for you to see, because I'm on a different computer, same document camera, but it's a different version of the software on this computer. If you have any issues with seeing things and how well they show up, the contrast, the brightness, let me know if it's difficult for you to see. I try to watch the video again, not the whole thing, but just parts of it to make sure that everything looks like it showed up okay, but let me know if it doesn't. If you're watching this on a phone, you're going to have a hard time seeing it. I will say that. All right, so integration review. And I'm using pencil here, which doesn't show up quite as well, and it kind of has a glare because of this light. I'm going to have to figure that out, but I'm not one of those people who can do math in pen. It just rubs me the wrong way. Just rubs me the wrong way. That's all I got. Example 1. If you just finished Calc 1 like 3 weeks ago, then this is all going to be very, very, very familiar to you. But if it's been a while, then you'll probably be really happy that I'm doing this very short integration review with you. So this is the integral of t to the -4th dt. I actually took Calc 1 in the spring when I was a student, and I took Calc 2 in the fall. And I specifically remember not remembering how to integrate when I got back to school in the fall. I mean, it came back very easily, but I just remember being like, wait, what happened? Like, what did we do? Because I didn't use it all summer. And if you don't know it that well, you lose it. All right, so remember when we're integrating, you increase the exponent by 1 and you divide by the new exponent. So instead of t to the -4th, well, t to the -4th plus 1, and then you'll divide by the new exponent. And don't forget that when you're integrating with an indefinite integral, that means you don't have the upper and lower limits of integration. You have to add c, which is this constant of integration. And then you'll simplify. So this is t to the -3rd divided by -3 plus c. Now, if that bothers you and you don't want to leave this with a negative exponent, remember that you can always write a negative exponent as a positive exponent if you flip that base's position in the fraction. So dividing by -3 is the same as multiplying by -1/3. And then I can move this t into the denominator. And when I do that, I can change the exponent to be positive. So this would be the integral here for t to the -4th dt. So for those of you who have not seen integration in a while, there's a very basic example. You're going to see a lot of this type of thing in 6.1. The integration is not too crazy. It's the setups in chapter 6 that are a little bit harder. Another type of integral that you probably saw quite a bit in Calc 1 was the kind of integral where you had division by a monomial. So something like this. The integral of, in the numerator, x e to the x plus 1, and in the denominator you have x. Remember that when you're integrating, we don't actually have any sort of product or quotient rules for integration. And you have to kind of find ways to fit these into really just power rules and just some of the other very basic rules that we have. So we don't have a quotient rule for integration. In that case, all you can do at this point is split this up using the monomial in the denominator. So you're going to divide both terms in the numerator by that monomial in the denominator. So you'll have x e to the x over x dx plus the integral of 1 over x dx. So we still have addition, so that has not changed. The first term in the numerator is over the denominator, and then the second term in the numerator is over the denominator. Now we just have to simplify. So remember that when you're adding or subtracting with fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Essentially what you did here was say, oh, okay, well, we had a common denominator. We can add these together. And you just kind of uncombined them. So they were combined and you split them up using the fact that you must have had a common denominator. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out the x's here in the first integral. And that leaves me with just e to the x dx, because x over x is 1, plus the integral of 1 over x dx. And then I'll integrate that. Now, if you don't remember the value of these integrals, I'm going to remind you right now, because these are special ones. The integral of e to the x, wait for it, is e to the x. The integral of 1 over x is the natural log of the absolute value of x plus c. Don't forget your absolute value bars. So this is one where you can't rewrite this as x to the -1st. I mean, technically you could, but it wouldn't get you anywhere, because if you added 1 to the exponent and divided by the new exponent, you'd be dividing by 0. So this is a special integral, which ends up being the natural log of the absolute value of x. So those are some special ones. Let's see what else I have in store for you. Let's see. Oh, yeah, a u substitution. Okay, talk about a u substitution. This will be the integral of e to the -x divided by 6 plus e to the -x dx. Now, this is not the same as what you had in example 2. In example 2, you had a monomial, which is a one-term polynomial, in the denominator. In example 3, the monomial is actually in the numerator. You can't split up the numerator. It doesn't work like that. When you add and subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator, not a common numerator. So in this case, you can't split this up like you did in example 2. When in doubt, if you're not sure what to do, try a u substitution. If you've done enough of them, then you should have a pretty good idea of where this one's going. But a lot of times, if you're not sure where to go with your integration, you can try letting the denominator be u. So we're going to let u be 6 plus e to the negative x. Now, the derivative of u is going to be negative e to the negative x dx. Remember that the derivative of 6 plus e to the negative x uses the chain rule. So the derivative of e to the negative x would be e to the negative x times the derivative of the inside function. The inside function's negative x. So that's where that derivative comes from. So du is just negative e to the negative x dx. So what you're looking for here is this situation where you have a quantity already in your integral. Now, you already have an e to the negative x dx right here, but you don't have it negative. But divide both sides here by -1. And now you can say that e to the negative x dx is the same as negative du. Now, if you want, I can even rewrite this just to make that look even clearer. Sometimes it's all about just the way it's presented to you. You can always move that dx into the numerator if it's bothering you. Okay. So I have e to the negative x dx, which is negative du. And then in the denominator, we have 6 plus e to the negative x. That quantity is u. If you like this form and you want to keep it that way, fine. My suggestion to you would be to write this in a way that's even easier to see. I'll leave the negative in front. I'll write this as 1 over u du. And hopefully at that point, it's more recognizable to us as the negative natural log of the absolute value of u. Let's see. And then you're going to back substitute for u because you weren't actually supposed to find this integral in terms of u. You were asked to find it in terms of x. So wherever you see u, you're going to plug in 6 plus e to the negative x. And then plus c. If you wrote this without absolute value bars, in this particular case, it would be okay because 6 plus e to the negative x can never be negative, so you don't ever have to force it to be negative. It's not a huge deal, but in a case like this, yeah, you have to have the bars because x can be negative or positive. But e to the negative x is always positive, and 6 plus that quantity is also always going to be positive. So you can write it like that. Let's see, what else did I want to do? Let's do a trig function. Oh gosh, this paper is so thick, I keep thinking it's more than one sheet. So this is going to be the integral of x times the sine of x squared dx. My husband has a little fan right next to the dog crate so that he stays like cool or whatever. And sometimes the dog will lay down right next to it and it'll kind of mess with the airflow. And I keep freaking out thinking the microwave's on. I'm like, what is even happening in there? But I think the dog is just like next to the fan. I don't know. Hopefully his hair is not just getting sucked up and it's going to short out and all kinds of disaster could ensue. And if it does, luckily I'm up to monitor it. Extinguish the flame. Should move that. All right. So this is the integral of a trig function, clearly. It's also another u substitution. Sometimes students aren't sure when their integral actually represents a u substitution. What you're looking for here is a composite function. You're looking for a function inside a function. What you have here is a quadratic function inside of a sine function. So that tells you right away that this should be a situation where you're going to use a u substitution. If this was x sine x, well, that would be a problem in and of itself. You would probably see that as just sine x dx. But because you were given x squared, your book knows what you know at this point, and it's giving you an x here. But it's a composite function because it's not just the sine of x, it's the sine of x squared. That's what makes it composite. That's how you know it's a u substitution problem. In this case, we're going to go for sine u. So we're going to let u be x squared. And if you're not sure, that's fine. Integration is a lot of trial and error. So you might say like, I'm not sure, I'm going to try this and see if it works. And if it doesn't, try something different. So we're going to let u be x squared. Then du is going to be 2x dx. Now, you don't actually have 2x dx. You just have x dx. Now, sorry, I shouldn't have, I'm like a robot here when it comes to these u substitutions. If you want to rewrite this so that it looks more clear when you make your substitution, you can rewrite this as sine x squared times x times dx. Multiplication is commutative. You can write it in any order. So you can take those factors and rearrange them if you find that easier to deal with. All right, so you don't have 2x dx, you just have x dx. So go ahead and divide out the 2. And then you can rewrite the x dx as 1/2 du. And since we know that, you can move that 1/2 out front. Then you just have sine u du. Everything is accounted for. The 1/2 du is here. It's just split up again. And then x squared was u. So you have sine u and then 1/2 du. And now comes an even trickier part for students. It shouldn't be even trickier, but it is. It's making sure that you have the correct sign, S-I-G-N, on your integrand. What you're asking yourself here is has to do, I think, with the derivative. So you know that the derivative of sine x is cosine x. So when you're working that in reverse, you need to think about the fact that the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x. Therefore, the integral of sine u is going to be negative cosine u. Now, if you don't remember that, I mean, you can always think back to your derivatives, but I did place on D2L in the content tab a handouts sheet. I think I got all the handouts to make sure. Handouts and formulas. There is a derivatives and integrals sheet in there in Calc 2. It is fair game to use that basic derivatives and integrals sheet, but it does have the integral of sine u listed in there. You know what? I might as well share it. Everything would be so much faster if I could do this in person. Stop presenting. Share my tab. Find the tab. Okay. So this was my formula sheet that I found from D2L. So here's our D2L page. If you go to the content tab, it's under handouts and formula sheets. There's a sheet called derivatives and integrals, and it has all the basic derivatives and integrals in it. This is actually a sheet I pulled off another textbook, so hopefully I won't get dinged for some sort of copyright infringement in court one day. But I've been using this for a while because I feel like it's a really comprehensive list of formulas. But it has basic integration formulas on the bottom, and you can see that number 6 is for the integral of sine u du. You may use these basic integration formulas on your exams. That is fine. That is fair game. It's in the form of a PDF. If you want to print it out, that is fine. You can refer back to this. Also notice 16, 17, and 18 for the inverse trig functions. You are more than welcome to use those in Calc 2. I didn't let you use them in Calc 1, but in Calc 2, they are available to you. So those are there for you. Oh, I might as well, since we're in here. There's a trig sheet in here that is also fair game on a test. I would, of course, love for you to know all your trig special angles and identities and all that. But if you don't have everything memorized, and I know when you're taking a test, everything's kind of fuzzy. Your unit circles on here, it's got some basic triangle values. Reciprocal identities you might occasionally use double angle formulas. Definitely will be using power reducing formulas, definitely, in chapter 7, a lot. And Pythagorean identities we'll use from time to time, definitely the tangent and cotangent identities. Other formulas we're not going to really be using: reductions, sum and difference, product to sum to product. The cofunctions we won't be using. The other sheet that I put in here, at least for now, I'm sure I'll think of more stuff later, was for geometry and algebra. The geometry you probably won't use that much. You might use it actually when we start talking about work in section 6.6, because you might need, the formula for the area of a, well, I don't know actually. Technically you should know all those formulas, but something might pop up, maybe for a cylinder or something like that. But the algebra part of this, so it's 2 pages. The algebra part you might find really helpful because it has some special factor formulas. It has the quadratic formula on here. It has the binomial theorem, as far as, taking a binomial to a power, factor by grouping, and just some of these arithmetic operations, and especially the exponents. I find that students always are not sure what they can and can't do with exponents. So the exponents and radicals stuff on the bottom here is probably going to be most useful to you. But anyway, that's what I have in the handouts and formula sheets for now. Your syllabus is under course info. Okay, so that was a little segue. Let me go back to my window here. Okay, so anyway, now that we know that we are looking at negative cosine u, so we'll have negative 1/2 cosine u plus c, and then you're going to swap that u back out for x squared. Which looks like this. Okay, what else is like especially pertinent? Definitely want to get a definite integral in here. Definitely want to get a definite integral in here. I also, I wanted to do one of these. If you took Calc 1 recently, you'll probably remember these. This is like a double substitution. All these have funny names to them. I don't know. This is called like, it's not called change of variables. Maybe, I don't know. Sorry, there's a specific name for it, and I forget how it's referred forget how they refer to it. Okay, so you might be looking at this and thinking u substitution. And if you're thinking that, you're right. It is a u substitution. And of course, this is a composite function because you're not just taking the square root of x, you're taking the square root of 4 minus x. And you can't multiply these together and get anywhere with this integral. So you would say, okay, let's let u be what's under the radical, 4 minus x. Awesome. Then du is negative 1 dx because the derivative of x is 1. So we'd have negative 1 dx. Okay, fine. We don't have it negative, so we'll have negative du equals dx. Well, the problem here is that when you go to sub this integral out, you still have an x that's unaccounted for. So you have x times the square root of u, and then dx is negative du. And then you're wondering, what just happened? Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I did the wrong thing. You're just going to need to substitute again to get rid of this variable x. But luckily you have an x here, and you can rewrite u in terms of that x. So we can say that if u equals 4 minus x, well, we can add x to both sides. You could say u plus x equals 4, and then you could say that x equals 4 minus u. And then we can write this again. So we'll have negative times the integral of 4 minus u times the square root of u du. And again, we don't have a product rule for integration. So the only way you're going to be able to do this one is to multiply it out. So you'll have negative times the integral of 4 times the square root of u minus u times the square root of u du. And anytime I have more than one term in an integral, I usually will just put parentheses around it. Okay. Now, if you'd like, I think it'd be helpful to rewrite your radicals as rational exponents. So that might be review for you too, if this has been a while. So we would say that this is 4 times u to the half minus u to the 3/2 du. So get used to thinking of u to the 3/2 as u root u. And then you will integrate. So the negative is in front of the whole thing. And then you have, we're going to increase the power by 1. So 1/2 plus 1 is 3/2, and you're going to divide by the new exponent, and then increase the power by 1 and divide by the new exponent, plus c. Sorry, this is a 5. It looks like a 3. It's definitely a 5. So, rewrite this again and again and again. If you'd like to make this term positive, go ahead. When you divide by 5/2, you're multiplying by 2/5. So you'll have 2/5 u to the 5/2 minus, and then 4 times 2/3 u to the 3/2 plus c. When you divide by 3/2, you're multiplying by 2/3. And I'm going to multiply here to get 8/3, and I'm also going to sub back in for u. We originally said that u is 4 minus x. So we're going to put that back in. So I'll have 2/5 times 4 minus x to the 5/2 minus 8/3 times 4 minus x to the 3/2 plus c. I am happy if you arrive at a conclusion like this. A lot of these books want you to factor out a 4 minus x to the 3/2 and then work with what's left and simplify it down. I'm not too worried about that. This is fine with me. And I'm going to have to see how Achieve does their answer acceptance. But from what I can see so far, they seem to be kind of like WebAssign, where they accept a lot of different things. I know for Calc, a lot of publishing companies accept a lot of different things. All right. Let's do one more with a definite integral, and then we will call it a day. I actually didn't know if I was going to get to 6-1 tonight. I always feel like, well, all I have to do is go over the syllabus, introduce some things, do a little integration review. It always takes a long time. And even though it doesn't make sense to me, like, why should it take that long? I know it's going to take that long. So mentally, I'm kind of like, yeah, I might not get to this, might not get to that. Okay, but that's okay. Like I said, test 1 is most likely going to be the one that's going to move. We shall see. Is this example 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's do a definite integral because it maybe has been a while since you've seen one of those. So we'll go from 0 to 2. The function is x squared minus 1 to the 5th power. Well, there's an x in front. It actually wasn't in the back, but I think it looks better in front. And then a dx. Okay, so hopefully we can clearly see that this is a u substitution. And hopefully we can identify the inside function. So the inside function is going to be x squared minus 1 because that is a quadratic function that's being taken to the 5th power. So I'm going to let u be x squared minus 1. And du is going to be 2x dx. Now I only have x dx. So I'm going to go ahead and divide that 2 on both sides to get just x dx. Okay, so there it is. So if you're rearranging your integral, right now you have u to the 5th times 1/2 du. Notice how I'm leaving space, though, between my integration symbol and my u to the 5th. That's because I want to change my limits of integration. Now, students are always wondering, do I have to do this? With a u substitution, you should. My excuse to my Calc 1 students is that your Calc 2 teacher will probably change their limits of integration, so you should learn to do it too. But now I'm your Calc 2 teacher, and I am doing it, but I'm not enforcing that you must do it. So your options here are either to change your limits of integration, or you can just integrate this as though it was an improper integral. I'm sorry, not improper. That would be chapter 7, an indefinite integral, and then get it written back in terms of x, and then apply your old x limits to this. So what I'm going to do is change my limits of integration. It's what I taught my Calc 1 students to do. It's what your book likes. It's called change of variables. Now we're dealing with a u function, not an x function. So if x went from 0 to 2, I'm going to write these in the same order in which we're seeing them vertically. X went from 0 to 2. Well, I know that u is x squared minus 1. So u is 2 squared minus 1, which is 3. See how this goes? 0 squared minus 1 is negative 1. So now the nice thing is if I rewrite my limits of integration so that they correspond to u instead of x, then I won't actually have to back substitute. And if I do back substitute, I'm doing it wrong. The whole point here is that I should be able to just work on this definite integral and get a number to pop out. That's it. I'm not back substituting anymore. The back substitution I would have done actually takes place here. So I've got 1/2, and then I'm going to increase the power by 1 and divide by the new exponent. Now it's a definite integral. Remember, we generally use these to represent the area under a curve. Definite integrals do not get the plus c. The plus c is just that arbitrary constant of integration that we apply to an indefinite integral. That's not the case here. So we're going to use the FTC, the fundamental theorem of calculus. I'm going to simplify this slightly to 1/12 u to the 6th. I'm going to evaluate that from -1 to 3. So I'm going to use parentheses here and evaluate u to the 6th at 3, and then subtract off the evaluation at -1. So I'll have 3 to the 6th, and then the FTC always takes the upper minus the lower limit. So you're taking your antiderivative and evaluating it at the upper limit minus the evaluation at the lower limit. Well, our lower limit is -1, so we need to make sure that we actually include all the proper signage here. Three to the 6th is 729, and then we have minus -1 to an even power is +1. 7/28/12. If you don't know how to simplify this fraction on your calculator, let's see if it shows up on my calculator. 728/12. Oh, good, it does. It's a decimal. So I'm glad I went through this because I actually want to make sure that we understand this is, you cannot leave your answer as 60.7 or 60.67. I like exact answers. This is exact, it's just not simplified. These are both even, so I know I can at least divide them by 2. So you're going to hit the math button, which is right here. And you're going to hit enter twice. And it's going to turn your value into a fraction. a simplified fraction. So 728/12, well, it looked like the GCF was 4, and when you divide that out, you get 182/3. I have a feeling Achieve would have accepted this one or this one, but I have not played around with it enough. When in doubt, simplify. I'm going to expect your answers to be simplified on your exams. It has been 2 hours, and I don't intend to make your asynchronous lectures longer than that, because I do anticipate that at some point you paused this so that you could write something down or something like that. I tend to go through things a little bit faster when I'm asynchronous, so I try not to make the videos 2 hours and 10 minutes. But we are at the exact 2-hour point. So I'm going to see you on Wednesday. Maybe I'll put up an integration review assignment, but we'll see, because we'll see if I get an email in the morning back from the Macmillan people. If I do, I might just put up a short integration review assignment just so you can kind of get your feet wet and make sure that you're on. I know some people want to get started right away. I know some of you are just go-getters, and I love that. I love that about you. So I'll see how long it takes these people to get back to me with your codes. But otherwise, email me if you have questions, and I'll see you synchronously on our Google Meet Wednesday. All right. Have a wonderful first week of classes, people. Back to the grind.